What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today is the start of a brand new build series. Many of you guys have seen this bike in the background, you kind of ask about it. I've gotten a lot of messages on Instagram of what's going on with the bike, and I feel I owe you guys quite a bit of explanation as to why it's taking so long to get started on this bike. This bike was purchased earlier this year. There's a video on us going to St. Louis and picking it up. We also stopped by and saw Paul and Mikey over at Bare Knuckle Performance. I kind of went over some ideas that I had with it, kind of the direction I was going to go, possibly, one way or another. And I think that's what's really been the holdup. I already have two motorcycles that are kind of OEM. Well, one's pretty OEM, the other one's OEM plus. This bike's going to require some fab work, which I've never done on any motorcycle that I've ever owned. Pretty much every bike that I've had has been factory, Harley-Davidson Bad Boys or Springers, and I've had a couple baggers, and even with my Softail Lowrider S, that bike everything was still bolt together on it. I wanted to kind of step up a little bit, go to the next level as far as bike building goes. Not that I'm consider myself a bike builder at all. I'm not trying to take that claim or that title. I'm just saying that I wanted to do something a little bit more on this bike, and then maybe the next bike I'll do a little more and a little more and a little more. If you remember back a couple episodes ago, I told you kind of updated my garage what my ideas were with this thing, and that's what we're doing. We are twin cam in this FXR. I know there's already a twin cam project going on within the channel currently with Hudson's bike, and that bike is going to be levels above what this thing's going to be. However, I think this is going to be a really, really good build series for someone that is a little bit more budget conscious like myself, someone that might not have all the time or all the money or all the equipment. This thing is going to be still very, very much garage built with the help of a few friends, but it is going to be twin cam. It's still going to have your stock style front end, stock-ish wheels. It's going to have some custom paint. There's going to be some goodies with it, but the big thing, like I said, twin cam. Throughout the series, I'm going to try to give you guys a lot of input and a lot of understanding with the FXR models and, different things of what works here and what works there. Today's episode, kind of the information that you can take from this is going to be what's the difference in a taper shaft and a spline shaft transmission. You'll hear that a lot. You'll hear a lot of guys talk about, well, that's a taper shaft bike, that's a spline shaft bike. And in today's episode, I hope to clear up what the differences between the two are. I'm going to turn the camera over here. We're going to look at the book. We'll show you some special tools that we need, and then we are going to get this motor, transmission, and primary out of this bike so I can get this bike framed over to Andy at Howlin Custom Cycles, and he's going to give it the same treatment that he gave Hudson's bike. Let's show you guys what we're working with. Let's show you guys what's going on. Let's get to wrenching. So to give you guys kind of like a little educational tidbit of what I know, when it comes to the terms spline shaft and taper shaft, they're talking about the transmission output shaft. So it's the shaft that actually goes all the way through the transmission into the primary to where your clutch hub assembly is bolted onto, and then of course your primary chain goes to your compensator and it connects everything together. One's going to have a spline, so your clutch basket actually lines up and then slides on, and then you have a bolt and it torques down. One's going to actually have tapered, where you almost kind of press fit your clutch basket on there. The taper shaft works well. Your clutch basket's got a little keyway, it lines up, and then it just kind of presses itself on. However, it makes for a lot of extra work if you ever were to break down on the side of the road. So let's say you're traveling across country or something goes wrong, you have a seal blowout or something like that, or your belt snaps and you need to do some sort of roadside maintenance. Now you have to have a clutch puller just to get that clutch assembly off, whereas a spline shaft, if you can get the bolt off, you can get your entire clutch basket off with no additional tools. Also, it opens up the door for better clutches and better clutch baskets and all that stuff with the spline. But it's not like a deal breaker when it comes to the actual transmission itself. However, with the spline shaft transmission, you're almost always, unfortunately, going to get this kind of two-piece starter system. When we get the primary off, I'll kind of show you more on the inside of what that starter assembly looks like. But basically, you have your starter motor and you have a solenoid. If the starter goes out or if the solenoid goes out, it's just a little bit more to it to try to figure out which component you need, what's actually going bad, and replacing it. Plus, with this style starter, sometimes it limits the type of exhaust you can run. So a few of the exhaust companies out there, they come off of these mounts on your transmission trapdoor, and with this big old starter, sometimes that gets in the way. So that's the plan. So we're going to pull all this out. We're going to salvage this for another project. We're going to sell all this stuff, the oil tank. Also, with the twin cam, you no longer need the oil tank. You don't need mids that come with an FXR. You don't need, there's a lot of stuff that's FXR specific that I will no longer need. So a lot of stuff I'm gonna have up for sale over the next couple months. Let's get the camera set up on the other side and let's get started. All right, so we're on the primary side of the motorcycle, and the first thing we gotta do is we gotta get this primary cover off. 80, I wanna say 84. I think when they did the Evo, this cover is specific to the Evo from 84 all the way up to 1989. So after 89 and 1990, when they started the first kind of spline shaft, which that's a whole nother thing. 1990 is like a 1 year only spline shaft and so forth and so on. In 1990, this cover changed. So these are not interchangeable. If you have a two-piece starter, you have to have the correct outer primary, inner primary, starter system, transmission, all that stuff's kind of together as one unit. We're just gonna get all the bolts out just like we've done in the past. I've already drained it, but I know a little bit of oil is still gonna leak out, so at least try not to get the soak up on this wood. It's gonna be a little noisy. So like I was saying earlier, you got your two pieces, you got your starter solenoid and your starter motor. Both of those are energized. Basically what happens is the solenoid, when it's energized, it's gonna suck in. So this thing's gonna pull in, which is gonna then push this out as it's spinning. This thing's gonna make contact with your flywheel and then spin the whole motor. The spline shaft setups, it's all contained in one unit, just like a car starter, or most modern cars. But your solenoid is connected to that, so you don't have this extra arm in here. It's all done inside itself. So you don't have this sitting on the outside, and you don't have all these extra little bits and pieces to worry about or mess with. It's a lot easier if you're ever stranded on the side of the road or whatever to kind of repair all this. So as far as the clutch goes, this is just your OEM stock style clutch. This would have a cover on it. The cover contains oil, which considers this to be a wet clutch. The tool that we're using is a GEMS tool, and on this tool it has WC and DC. Most of your DCs, your dry clutches, are just going to be a 3-bolt pattern that's going to bolt on here to press your clutch basket off. We're going to use the WC because this is a wet clutch, which is also 4 bolts. I'll show you how all that works. But first thing we need to do to start removing all that is we need to get this compensator nut off. We need to get all of this internal, your clutch adjuster, this C-clip, get this whole little unit out. And then there still is a nut on the other side of this that we need to remove, so that way we can get this piece on there. So let's get to that. All right, first things first, we're just gonna get this little C-clip out. Take a set of C-clip pliers. Easy breezy. Gonna break this off. There we go, just gives me a little bit more leverage to grab a hold of it. So we got that out of the way. All right, so this is a different size than what the spline shaft is. This is a 1 1/8 inch nut on there. Same as before, your clutch basket is always the opposite. So what you would think, lefty loosey, righty tighty, this is always the opposite. So let's go ahead and knock this one loose. Pull out our Milwaukee drill here. We'll act like we're tightening up. All right. The only other thing to remove now is this. Now, like I was saying on this clutch basket, you got your 4 bolts here. You need to remove these equally because you got your spring plate right here. So you don't want to just let this one fully out, this one fully out, this one fully out, and then it have this weird angle kind of bend on it. So you need a little bit, you know what I mean? Go back and forth and just slowly, evenly take all the weight off all these screws here. Alright, got all 4 bolts off, and then this will all come, ooh, oil. Wasn't prepared for that. This is a lot of oil that stays inside that clutch basket. So got all that removed. We're just going to put this over here with all of our primary stuff. So now that you have the clutch basket kind of in this state, like I said, you're going to take your GEMS tool and you're just going to run all these down you don't want to just a couple threads. You want to make sure you get a good amount of threads on these, because you don't want these to pull out or strip out your clutch basket. So once you get everything kind of ran down evenly, you're going to have this thing spaced nice and squared against this. So it's not going to sit flush against it. And then you're going to put your little lock tool in there. And then you're just going to tighten this thing up until it breaks free. Boom, just like that. Pops off. All right, I went in and put the spring plate back on there. It's not fully installed, but put the 4 screws back in, so that way I can just pull all this out together without the clutch disc and everything coming apart. So now we'll just grab it just like we would on any other setup. Just slowly, just get all your pieces out. And then we'll just set this up over here. We're going to go ahead and remove all these bolts just like we've done in the past. They got these locking tabs. Usually just one of them's bent over, so you just need to free up all the locking tabs. And then don't forget that we do have one hidden bolt, which may be a little tough to get to with the way I got this bike positioned, but there is a bolt on the back side of this primary for where the ground strap's at, going the opposite way, so we need to loosen that one up as well, or fully remove it. We got 2 there, 2 there, 2 there, and there should be the one underneath. So let's get these things bent over. And I know this is a screwdriver, not a punch, but I'm going to try to be gentle with these tabs and not ruin my screwdriver, because I do not have a flat edge punch. Alright, all the bolts are loosened, everything is apart as far as the inner primary goes. I even got the one bolt that's on the back side where the ground strap is. Let's go ahead and remove this just so these pieces aren't hanging out while it's sitting over there on those boxes and whatnot. It's just got an Allen bolt up here on the top. And you try to get a magnet, see if the magnet, oh, yep, there it goes. Alright, just pulls this little pin right here, comes out. And you should be able to take this whole piece out as one unit. Oh yeah, it's got some rubber. Got a little rubber boot that you need to kind of press around. There it goes. Bam. So this is that weird extra piece that I was talking about. This rides in here, this pushes, this does some things. These things have broken for folks in the past. Just another reason why the one-piece starter is a little better design, a little more durable, especially when you're on the side of the road. You know, you don't want to have to mess with so many parts just to get your bike back on the road. So got all this, we got all the bolts. Let's put this over here. Again, just because it's how I am, drop that back in there. Put this little Allen plug back in the top. Bam. All right, set this right here. All right, so now we're back on this side of the motorcycle. We do need to disconnect our ignition pickup. So this harness comes through here. The plug should be somewhere, yeah, right here. So it's just behind your master cylinder. So we'll just cut the zip tie. We'll disconnect that. We'll leave this harness connected to the motor, all that kind of stuff. We got a top engine mount right here, your stabilizer link. We need to disconnect that. We got 2 front engine mounts. We need to disconnect those. Let's go ahead and get this forward control out of the way. We got the 2 rear engine mount bolts. Get those out of the way. It's not a big deal, but just be cautious. If you start taking the bike down this far, once you start breaking those bolts loose, the motor and the transmission are going to actually want to kind of like, right now them being properly torqued is keeping it level. But as you loosen it, it's going to want to, you know, kind of separate a little bit. So when we start loosening that, we only got about a 1/4 inch gap up here. It's going to lean over to that. No big deal. We'll work around it. All my oil lines are disconnected. That's it. And then this motor's out of here. Let's get this forward control out of here first. Got a little cotter pin on this back side. A little rust in there, so this thing's not wanting to spin. There it goes. Brake stays. Got it. If anyone needs a nice set of forward controls, these are actually pretty decent. They got a little grease fitting right here to keep the, the shifter arm properly lubed. Chrome on it and everything looks good too. I'll sell them cheap. All right, let's get this top motor mount off. We'll just go ahead and fully remove this stabilizer link. All right, we got the top motor mount off. We got the forward control off. Now I just need to cut this zip tie. Just disconnect this harness with all this when we go to put it on the stand. All right, oil line is disconnected. That oil line is fine. That's just our drain. All right, I got some wood in here, kind of supporting the motor for the most part. It's not pretty, but it works. If I had the bike up a little bit higher, then I could be able to get something underneath it, but unfortunately this is what I had to make work. I'm not worried about scratching the frame because all this is getting stripped and powder coated anyways. And yeah, just two bolts, bada bing. Alright, so there you have it. We're going to go ahead and cut the video off right there. Got the motor, the transmission, and the primary all out of the motorcycle. The rest of the accessories will be stripped off. Pretty much everything's self-explanatory. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm out of breath. But everything else is kind of just a couple nuts, bolts. We'll get everything off it. Then we'll get this frame over to Andy and we'll get going on that Ramjet twin cam conversion kit. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to finally get back to working on this motorcycle. Like I said, this is going to be a slow project. So we're not going to be strictly dedicated to this bike, but we're going to definitely get to working on this, and then we're going to also kind of fill in the blanks with some footage of Hudson's bike getting built. So you'll get to see a high-end twin cam FXR getting built on this channel, and kind of more of a garage, your run-of-the-mill twin cam FXR getting built. So both are going to be super cool. I'm excited for both of them, and I hope you guys are too. So until then, we'll see you guys later. Yeah, take care. Peace.